Okay, May, thank you for coming tonight, and I'm just going to share my screen with you and tell me when you see this graphic up.
It's up.
Okay, so you see from single to soulmate.
Yes.
Are you ready, May?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you so much for coming out. We're going to go through this slide presentation, but we won't get overly preoccupied with the content. I just use it as a guide.
Mhm.
But this session is really, at the end of the day, it's designed for anybody who is really ready to have extraordinary, what I would call life-changing, soulmate quality relationships. And I say that because this is not to criticize what we might call more ordinary relationships, but it was once described this way to me. Somebody that I respect a lot said, Alan, there's a difference between what we call bipartite relationships versus tripartite relationships. Bipart relationships, which are just fine, by the way, are two individuals, two personalities. They have different personalities, they have different characteristics, they have different lifestyles, and they come together and could have a very good relationship. And they might live like that for the rest of their life, and that's fine. But that's different than what's called a tripartite relationship, where you've got two individuals, but there's a third party involved. Call it God, spirit, source, I don't care what name we give it, because it has a quality that goes to the depth of your soul. And so there's a big difference between, as a man in my early years, walking into a room and saying, oh, I'm really attracted to that person. And it was obvious that a huge part of that was physical. And physical plays a role in any relationship, including soulmate relationships. But that attraction, which sometimes is more abundantly filled with sexual energy, versus a soulmate connection that's so magnetic, it's so deep, it's more heart-centered within where the physical plays a role, but is not the primary aspect of the connection. The soul connects. Like, I'll remember the first time I ever met someone that I would consider was a deep soulmate like that. I thought that I had everything together. I was a confident man. I was ready for my soulmate. And I walked into an office where I was working, looked across the room. My knees shook. I couldn't speak for the rest of the day. That's how powerful that connection was, that mirrored every fear and insecurity I had. Because as we go through this presentation, we're going to see that attracting your soulmate, attracting deep connections, is not for the faint of heart. You need to be ready to work on yourself. Does that make sense, May?
Absolutely.
Good. Anytime along the way, feel free to ask me any questions. So
Will do.
if anyone out there is really, really fed up with being alone, and by the way, in the last few months, I don't know if you experience the same thing, May, but I sometimes check the news here and there,
Mhm.
and there's an epidemic in the world of loneliness. And I find it amazing. We live in an age of technology where we should be so together, and yet the opposite is true. People are more alone now than they ever were. Loneliness, and it's not just loneliness in personal relationships, it's alone in life. And I find that pretty incredible. And that's part of why we've committed to the soulmate revolution. Are you totally confused when a seemingly great guy, if you're a woman, ghosts you or pulls out, whether it's a guy or a gal?
Mhm.
When I first put this together, it was geared more toward women, but it's really toward both. But are you totally confused when you seemingly have this great relationship and then they're out of there? And how could they not love what we just had? Do you long to find that one amazing connection, your true soulmate? Are you completely over scrolling through profiles on the internet till your eyes are blurry? I think we can all relate to that. So what are you looking for? Your best friend and lover? And I have found that for me, the foundation quality that has to be there is great friendship. Obviously, if it's a lover and a soulmate, romantic soulmate, it's not limited to friendship, but the foundation of friendship must be there. I remember in the days where I was very taken in about the obsession that I would have toward a woman that I thought I was totally in love with and lose myself in the love. There was so much fear and insecurity. There was no room for her and I to be great friends. There was much more room for me to be the victim who was just
Right.
eventually going to lose her because I was too needy and wanting her too much. And I was so unable to just be a good friend. I couldn't just be authentic. I couldn't be myself because I was so worried about what she thought. So you want to have deep emotional and physical intimacy, and that's pretty crucial. Someone to have fun with, enjoy. It's not just about talking about words. You want a fun-filled life. I'll never forget a woman who once said to me, Alan, the one thing more than anything I want in a man, if he makes me laugh, I'm interested. I always thought that was really interesting. Enjoy stimulating conversations. You know that feeling when you meet a soulmate quality relationship and you could talk for 10 hours and still you have the same energy you had at the beginning and you can go on for a day. And many of us haven't even experienced that. A deep spiritual connection, unlike you've ever experienced before. So are you ready to magnetize your soulmate?
Yes.
Good. May, you're the perfect
Yes.
person. You're the perfect
I'm
person.
in it. I'm in it to win it.
That's fantastic. I'm glad I'm doing this recording with you. So most people are not in soulmate quality relationship because they're so busy working out dysfunctional relationships from the past. One thing I like to say to some of my clients is that most people will say, I want to have love. I want love in my life. But what most of them really mean is I'm looking for mommy and daddy in a younger body. I remember most of my formative years being attracted to women who were bitchy. I was scared of them. I was scared of my father. I only learned later that my way of handling being attracted to women is I was looking for love from my father, even though they didn't look like my father, thank God. They had the qualities of my father. They were bitchy and aggressive. If someone was too loving and wanted to love me, I was out of there. What do I want? What's wrong with them that they love me so much? I saw them as too needy. So most people are not even ready for their soulmate. And that's why a lot of them will look to either someone who makes a lot of money or someone who has a great career, is famous, is powerful, is physically attractive, is hot, which eventually all of those things can fizzle out. So this challenge, even soulmates that do come together, by the way, as I mentioned before, either run from each other out of fear or struggle as they mirror each other's anxieties. When I met this one woman where my knees were shaking, my experience of being with her for a few hours was so mind-boggling, so exciting, so wonderful, so magical, that it didn't take me more than 24 hours for that feeling to turn into, when I went into the office the next day, oh, look at, she's talking to this other guy. She looks like she's interested in him. Fear, insecurity began to envelop me. And so all of this function, all that she did was play a role to mirror my insecurities. And that's why I believe that if someone wants to attract a high level, deep connection, they're a lot better off with taking the time to cultivate and set the foundation of the relationship that they have with themselves. So if I get to the point where I can accept, love, respect myself, admire myself like my own child, I'm unconditionally loving to Alan. And if I am, and then I meet a great woman or a great person. That's amazing. And I have this wonderful magical connection. If she abandons me, there will be disappointment. But that disappointment will be minimal compared to the way it was. And I will be able to lift myself up more quickly to get back in the zone where, hey, if that person doesn't love me, no matter how good it felt, I like me, I love me, I'll find someone who actually reciprocates with me. That's
Right.
because of the work you've done on yourself, and most people are not there. Make sense so far? Any questions, Bane?
Absolutely. I read something somewhere at one point, and I can't remember whose quote it is, but she said, I've fallen in love with myself, and now I'm just looking for someone to share that love with me.
Exactly.
And I
That's it.
think that's where you're coming from too.
It's totally, because the reality is attachment. If we're overly attached, I mean, why did I go from leaving university at one point and become a Zen monk? Obviously, I became a Zen monk because I wanted to become the word was enlightened. What does enlightenment mean? Free. I wanted to become free inside. And so to become free, they taught you got to become less and less attached. So less and less attached. I lived like a monk. I lived simply. I meditated, went deep, 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 and found out, yeah, there is this thing inside that I like to call the Zen zone. Call it vortex, source, spirit, Zen zone, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I got there. But after 9 years of meditating more, meditating more, meditating more, meditating more, I still wasn't happy. I was happy that I achieved that state, but I missed women too much, because I learned as I went back into the world that unless you connect that state with every other part of your life, it's going to be limited. Not only limited,
Right.
but you can also become a spiritual monster, like some cult leaders and some cult members go off in an
Yes.
extreme situation.
It's funny you mentioned that because I have a lot of people who in my circle, it's all about going into 5D, achieving 5D, getting to 5D, and I'm telling them, no, it's about learning what 5D is and bringing it into the three-dimensional world. It's not about going there, it's bringing what's out there or inside out into the world.
Absolutely. One of the greatest mentors I had, whose name you might know, Ramdas, who was Richard Alpert. He talked about that. He was a Harvard professor, and then he became celibate, went to India, practiced chanting, meditating, fasting, had a guru, and he worked hard to become spiritual. Then he took a trip back to New York, and he met his family, and they looked at him and they said, "So, Richard, when are you going to get a job?" And then his friend said, "You know what the problem with you is, Richard? You're too attached to emptiness." You see, he looked to become enlightened like I did, to become free. But I realized sooner or later that true freedom is mastering the inner freedom of the Zen zone, but mastering your day-to-day life along with it.
Yeah.
They complement each other. And a lot of people go off and become a little bit too much caught with too much spiritual pride in the spiritual development, but at the expense of developing themselves as a human being.
Right.
The foundations of meditation is building your own self-confidence and self-esteem as a person. So everything I do, everything I teach, everything I try to live is that the relationships you have with others are first and foremost founded on the quality of relationship you have with yourself. So, do you suffer from repeated self-destructive patterns with men or women? Do you suffer from maybe depression, anxiety, fear, or worry that you will be alone forever, never ever meeting your true soulmate? Do you wonder why keep attracting people who are not able to truly commit? Do you ever consider that people you are attracted to are not attracted to you? The list goes on, because as long as we're living in fear and insecurity and lack of confidence, these patterns are going to show up in one form or another. And then all we're going to get in life is dysfunctional relationships. And if you ever watch and I like watching sometimes these murder mystery shows, not because I like violence, I don't, but I like to see how they solve the
The mysteries.
mystery, the murders, the kill, whatever. And it's always starts the same way. These two people came together, fell in love, had 2, 3 kids. They had the perfect life. And then one thing happens, another thing's happened. Before you know, one of them is caught with having an affair. And then in extreme cases, one murders the other one. That's how that's that's what that brings us back to why it's so important to accept and love ourselves. Because if we temporarily fall in love, that temporary feeling of falling in love is we're both in the zone. We're both in that Zen zone now. But then the crap starts to happen when life takes over. And most of that work has not been worked on. Therefore, we attract dysfunctional relationships. So, former Zen monk, creator of the Soulmate Revolution, and I make it clear to everybody that I talk with, is that everything that I've created has not come from intellectual understanding, from personal experience. I've had early life experiences being compared to my brother. He was Mr. Everything. Every woman I would meet with, I would go out with, I would become too needy and lose them. There was a comparison of me to my brother. So I was always so busy trying to prove myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a near-death experience, which shook me up and finally mobilized me to become a Zen monk, and ultimately, beyond being a Zen monk, to not only grow personally, but to create something unique in the training industry. Because I began to learn what did I want to do? Why did I get into this profession? Because I want to help people. But how do I want to help people? Do I just want to become an inspiring teacher? Nothing wrong with that. But if I just run events and give public talks and inspire people, that inspiration may not be long lasting because they're relying a bit on my energy.
Right.
Do I want to become a cheerleader for someone, or a counselor, or maybe some form of life coach? Again, not criticizing. I'm sure many of them do a good job. But all I know is after years that I began in this industry, hundreds of people come through my office. I would ask them, how much work have you done on your self-development, your communication skill development? And they would say, oh, a lot. I've done this. I've read this book. I've been to this seminar, that workshop, this retreat. And then I would do my evaluation, which I'm going to do in a minute. And I was shocked. After spending $5, $10, sometimes $20,000, after all the time invested in themselves, they were very low, much lower than they should be in some of these categories in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the light bulb went on. I said to myself, if physical fitness, if I was in terrible shape, 100 pounds overweight, terrible shape, would I get someone to a rah-rah motivation? No. Would I read a lot of books? No. Would my coach try to get me into the gymnasium to work out 4 or 5 times a week? And in time, 3, 4 months, I'm in tip-top shape. In the same way, I realized that what I wanted to create is to take the awareness that people have through self-development, through study, through words, through rah-rah motivation, and finally get in the gym and take the awareness into emotional commitment, take the emotional commitment into consistent action, and ultimately take all those 3 into clear and effective and impactful communication. Because unless you have all those 4 issues, the self-development is limited. And I always wanted to connect self-mastery with communication mastery. It's kind of funny to talk about this often. I have some women friends of mine who've been to many seminars and are very evolved personally. They'll call me up and say, Alan, I need your help. I need some advice on, I'm about to break up with my boyfriend and I don't know exactly how to communicate with him. So, and this happens quite often. They'll ask me for advice on how to communicate, and someone will say, hey, Alan, could you call him in my behalf? And that gets a chuckle out of them. But that is why I wanted to make sure that whatever I teach people includes communication, because communication is part of self development. Okay, now I'm not going to ask you, May. I think we did this. Remember, I took you. Did I take you through this assessment once where you rated yourself 0 to 100%?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So at this point, what I like to ask people is to rate themselves 0 to 100% on every one of these categories. So they'll take out a pen. You don't have to do that. But my fitness level in the last 2-3 months, not because I had a bad day yesterday, 30, 40, 50%, self-confidence, time management, emotional health, mental toughness, inner peace, fun and leisure, and so on. Those are the personal side. Then the relationship communication side, boldness, listening skills, assertiveness. So inevitably, when my clients or prospective clients come to me and I do this overview, I'll have them do this exercise. And many of them have 3, 4, 5, sometimes more that are a lot lower than they should be. So I like to ask the question, if you got up in the morning and your cell phone was only working at, let's say, 20, 30% of its efficiency, how quickly would you call the cell phone company? Probably pretty quickly.
I'd show up at their door.
That's it. So phone, laptop, car, we will solve it. But most of us don't look in the mirror in the morning and say, oh my God, I'm only working at 20, 30, 40% of my interpersonal skills and my personal development skills. Oh my God, I got to get help. I got to call Alan. I got to call May. I got to call Jane Doe, whoever it be. I got to get some help. We tend not to do that.
No, we don't.
So a lot of people are walking around doing their life, and all the things that we do in life, most of them connect with relationships. We all want to live a desired lifestyle. If I ask each person, describe your ideal lifestyle, most of us want the same thing. We want freedom, we want inner peace, we want tranquility, we want self-esteem, we want confidence, we want assertiveness, we want fun, we want great friends, we want this most amazing soulmate in our life, we want to travel, and the list goes on. We all want a combination of those kind of things. Now, in order to do that, you can replace the word soulmates with communication. We need to communicate with people personally and professionally every day. So as a communication coach, the question I ask people, or maybe I tell people, is that in my experience, about 20% of our communication has to do with content, words, technique, but 80% oozes out from the inside. And these 4 represent the inside. And this is where the cancer comes. If I go back and hearken back to my teenage days, going to maybe the age of 18 or 19, going to a high school dance, seeing a girl cross the room that I was so attracted to. But then on an emotional level, fear, fear, fear. Then I connect that to my mind. I'm not good enough. She won't like me. I may get rejected. How am I going to handle rejection? Physically, I'll freeze, procrastinate. Either procrastinate or become compulsive. In this case, I procrastinate. I don't take action. So all these 3 are negative energies that I'm putting out. And then what's going to happen is that either I'm not going to walk up to anybody with an opportunity to maybe find a date, or if I have the balls to go up to them and my knees are shaking and I say, you wouldn't want to dance with me, would you? And she says, no, thank you. And then I turn around and I say, you idiot. My mind says, you idiot. You crazy. I told you not to do that. You feel embarrassed, humiliated, angry. And then you make a decision, physical decision. I'm not going to do that again. And you might live out the rest of your life with not ever having what you want. But even if you got married in a safe and secure sort of okay relationship, you might always be looking around for your true soulmate. Where's the true soulmate? And you could spend your whole life like that. That's how debilitating it is. So the question then becomes, what are we going to do with the you part of communication? The accepting, loving you. So we have what's called the Zen zone. That's when I chose to be a monk, I wanted to get into that clear, calm state that I am in most of the time now, thank God. But then I need to attach that to healthy emotions. If I'm filled with fear, anxiety, shyness, anger, sadness, depression, confusion, that's cloudy emotion. Then the mind is going to probably be negative. I can't do it. No one's ever going to like me. I procrastinate. If only I had that more money, then I could have that. And then the mind starts to get hyperactive. Not just the quality of thought, but the quantity of thought kicks in. Mind Gone Wild, which is the name of my book. And so emotionally and psychologically, we have all this turbulence. And that turbulence will affect the physical actions of either one side, procrastination, to another side called obsession. So we might be a person who is obsessed with our work, but our home life is a mess. But we'll obsess and work just to hide out from the mess. So unless, and if we have all this emotional, psychological turbulence, that will limit our ability to access that calm, clear, centered Zen zone mind. Because the more you live in the zone with a healthy emotional life of joy, love, happiness, and positive creative thought and harmonious physical actions, if you have all of these working in harmony like a well-oiled machine under the roof of a car, then that engine started up. Now I feel great. I'm ready for my day. And everybody I connect with, I'm radiating love, respect, attention, listening skills, presentation, conversational skills, understanding personality types, responding to conflict, negotiating conflict. I'm in the communication dance effortlessly because I learned to effortlessly to connect in the dance with myself. And once you get to that level, once you get to that high level of living in the zone most of the time, which is the 7th of the 9 steps that I'm going to go over, you come to a very magical level where organically people and everything that needs to come into your life will just organically come in, or you will organically reach out in a good way. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Actually, I have been in that state at a certain point in my life. I was doing continuous meditations on a daily basis, about an hour every day, very, very focused on a particular target. And I got to a place where I no longer could differentiate with whether something was coming to me because it was the universe leading me, or whether it was me manifesting that thing from the universe. So basically, what I wanted and what the universe kind of wanted for me, we were walking that same line. It was the most beautiful thing ever.
Well, when you think of
It's
it,
not
Nay,
it's not easy to maintain though.
yeah, well, that's the trick. But just addressing your point there, it's one and the same.
It
This,
is.
this thing about organically attracting, if I'm living in that that Zen zone vibe that I'm talking about,
Mm.
then what happens is one of two things happen. The vibe, the intuition, the zone will either attract things from the outside like a magnet,
Yep.
or will organically provide you the insight. Like, let's say, a party I was once invited to, that someone called me and said, Alan, I'm inviting you to this party. My first reaction was say no. I didn't want to go. But then my intuition said, Alan, I don't know what's here, I don't know why it's in my heart to do this, but I think you should go.
Mhm.
And inevitably, every time that happened, I went and something terrific happened. So
Right.
organic could come from the inside or the outside. Now,
Yeah.
sustaining it is exactly why I created the 9 steps, because the
Mhm.
9-step system is not only to tap in to the highest level of number 7, to live in there, but to sustain it long term, because it becomes like a self-coaching system for life.
Right.
That's different than going to a weekend workshop about getting in the zone, loving it, meeting wonderful people. 2 weeks later, I'm off
You're not in the
track.
zone.
Something happens, the world happens. Too many, my kids are bugging me. I don't have kids, you his, so you can relate to that. But health concerns, this concern, that concern, this relationship concern, stuff
Right.
happens. And so sustaining it more and more consistently is where the true magic really is. And that's a very
Those-
high level of self.
I believe it. I've been there. It's beautiful.
So the last part of this, May, is I'll quickly go. So, if you want, you could put on the mute button if you want.
No, it's okay.
Okay,
Somebody was talking to somebody else.
okay.
I've got a full house.
Oh, okay. Step number 1 is to take stock of our life. We do that when we do the assessment, but when people become a client of mine, there's actually a more formal training manual. So they fill this in every month to watch their lifestyle scores increase. So step number 1 is to have the courage to look inside, assess your strengths, your weaknesses, and do that on an ongoing basis. Number 2 is take stock of your past, connecting to your past. Obviously, most of the psychological, emotional turbulence comes from anger, resentment, grudges that we hold toward other people. So it becomes very important, and we have what's called a zap the past exercise, which is 2A. And when you go through that, you let go the power of holding resentment and anger toward others. And then 2B is, even if you got to the point where you've let that go, a lot of my clients are still way too hard on themselves and self-critical. So we have a zap the past exercise for that. So when someone goes through step 2, they feel a sense of relief. Now we can move on to step 3. Now we can replace the negativity in our being with some of the positivity in number 3, 4, and 5. And we start with 3. We want to get really clear on who we are, finally, because we don't want to live in a dysfunctional relationship with ourselves anymore. So we want to revise and review who we are, what we want, what our direction is, what's our purpose, if that's important to you, what are the goals we want to go for, along with an inner warrioress like spirit that says nobody, nothing is going to get me off track from living my desired lifestyle. And we teach people an impact visioning process along the way. So step 1, 2, 3, easy peasy. Within the first week, 10 days, it's okay. It's done. Any questions so far?
No, we're good.
Now, number 4 is a bit more difficult. If we're going to live our dream desired lifestyle and help to get the consistency of maintaining it the way you talked about before, May, we start to provide our clients with inner fitness exercises. Some are on a rational level, that we can take any core beliefs we have in belief patterns, thought patterns we have, and with a 3-part unique system, transform the negativity into positivity, and then we'll attack 5 or 6 of the key ones, and the person will be amazed at how powerfully they transform their inner way of thinking. Because I've learned over the years that affirmations, for example, are good, but they're not enough. And the
Right.
process we take people through connects the mind to emotion to action as well. So it's very powerful. And then we teach people how to tap into the Zen zone in a more consistent basis. Now, some of my clients might have their own yoga, meditation. Fine. I encourage them to keep up anything that they're doing. If it's working, keep it up. All we're doing is providing other exercises as an option to add into their inner fitness exercise. I call it their power hour that they're going to do every day. So some of it is to get into the Zen zone. Some of it is to transform negative thoughts. And thirdly, and this part is often left out, is emotionally. How to channel emotions from fear and insecurity into passion, enthusiasm, and assertiveness. I just got off the phone with a dear friend 2 hours ago, and she tells me, Alan, I could relate to what you say about mind gone wild in your book. You talk about mind gone, my mind has gone wild. She's thinking too much, she's thinking too much. And I said to her, if you want to get out of there, are a lot of different things you need to do to get out of it consistently. But one thing that she's afraid to do, which is the very thing she needs to do, is her mind is so active that she's got to go down to her emotions and get fed up with it, get into her emotions. I tell her, go downstairs where nobody is, cry, laugh, get angry, beat a pillow up, do whatever you have to do, then go into your mind, transform negativity into positivity, and then take a power action. So I'm teaching her this little exercise to go through. So it's very important that in step 4, which is one of the more important of the 9 steps, is where we build our inner muscles, our inner muscle building exercises. Now, when people see us, they could see the look in our eyes, the poise that we walk, the sound of our voice has a bit more authority in it. And now we take it in outside ourselves. Inner power is 4, outer power is 5, taking charge of your life. That has to do with action. And not a lot of people are like that. It's not a sexiest part of personal development. Overcome procrastination. We have what's called a personal accountability system. We recommend a success partner, turn your awareness into action. And every day you do this little exercise, and within a week or 2, you're starting to take more consistent action. If you get off track, we have exercises to get yourself back on track in a very interesting way. It's called the consequence system. That sounds bad, but it's actually very powerful. Works, always works. And so now people start taking action and feel better about their external lifestyle. Inner 4, 5, outer. Now, number 6, which is critical, my favorite. No matter how much work you do on your personal development, we're all going to be challenged to what I call the obstacle challenges, or the Scud missiles of life. They're going to come from the outside or inside our own mind. And then it's going to be our job to decide, am I going to remain a victim of how I feel through this experience? Or am I going to learn to navigate, channel, and get out of it as quickly as possible? So here we teach people self-mastery processes that help them to go from the initial feeling, like let's say I'm rejected in a relationship. Oh, and I'll feel that as long as I need to feel it. Hopefully it's not weeks and months. And you take it and you say, okay, this happened with me many moons ago, but I'll never forget what I did. I said, this was painful. And the next day I realized I can't even be her friend at this point. And I went inside myself and I said, okay, how do you feel, Alan? And I get in my car and start getting angry and pissed off and sad and cried, got it out. Then I said, I am now choosing to think about that young lady. And instead of being pissed off, I am going to send waves of love, forgiveness if I have to, wishing her well, wishing her only the best, irrespective of what she does or doesn't do. I'm sending loving thoughts to her. And then I quickly pick myself up and start to take some action to get back in my daily life, which ultimately as soon as possible, spend more time with friends, and then start dating again. So it doesn't matter what the Scud missile is. It could be someone dying, someone getting finds out they have cancer. Could be someone who stole some furniture from you, or money from you, or hit your car, whatever it be. They're all Scud missiles. And whatever they are, whether minimum, major, minor, medium, we have to learn to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps, get back in the zone, faster, 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 until you get to the point where I like to think this is sort of where I'm at, is where I'm in the zone most of the time. And then the magic happens, because now we're ready to enjoy true grace, harmony, synchronicity, having a more and more consistent level of inner freedom as you let go some of the more subtle emotional, psychological infections that are still there. And so we do some advanced motivational techniques to alleviate even them. So now your charisma, your energy starts to be released. And the first 7 steps of accepting and loving yourself, you're ready for the 8th step, which is all about communication, how to communicate effectively, how to become a great listener, do's and don'ts in the dating conversation, strengthen your self-confidence, let your personal magnetism do the attracting, learning about personality types and how to handle them. Pretty well everything that goes in to effective communication on a more romantic and non-romantic levels. That's step 8. Step 9, tying it all together, your dating action plan, the accelerator, attracting your soulmate in 2024. I don't know what else I have here. Are you tired and fed up with mediocrity, the dates you're going on? Are you ready to raise the bar? Can you do it alone, or could you see how the 9-step program can help you to fast track and attract your true soulmate? Can you see that, May?
I can relate to a lot of this.
That's why the universe sent you today.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? Give up? Boy, she looks like she's really given up.
Oh my
Stagnate?
gosh.
Get depressed? Beat yourself up? Blame others? You want to let go of your self-limiting beliefs? Transforming your fears into self-confidence? Releasing your full potential, personal potential? Mastering your dating and conversational skills? Fast-tracking meeting your soulmate? Benefits: to get clear, you'll get clear in your vision and purpose, strengthen your self-confidence, be more bold and assertive when you need to be more calm and clear-minded, communicate with clarity and impact. It's a complete, practical, and fast-track system, 60-day fast-track transformation. The personal coaching is 8 one-to-one personal coaching sessions with Alan, but you also have access to me 24/7. That's one benefit that I offer in my exclusive one-to-one coaching, that it's not just weekly. If you're going through stuff during the week and you need to talk, contact me within 24 hours or less, of course. I connect with you, and then if you need to talk for 20 minutes or deal with issues, we deal with this. So it's all part of the package. Direct access to phone and email support. And then you have a self-coaching system for life, and there's a group coaching available as well. So in a nutshell, that gives you an overview of the Soulmate Revolution. Turn it back to you.
Awesome. That is awesome.
I like it.
That's awesome. So, I don't know if I actually want to ask this question on a recording, but
No,
I'm
what
gonna
we're
ask
doing,
it anyways.
hold it, man. What I'm going to do is formally end the meeting, and I'll stay on with me,
Okay.
and then we'll continue talking. I'm just going to end the recording. Thank you very much for listening into this. Thank you, May, for being here. It was wonderful. And I wish you, if anybody wants to contact me, they just check alanKnight.com/calendar. You can set up a 45-minute evaluation and assessment to see if one-to-one coaching or group coaching is a right fit for you. And look forward to hearing from you. And let's all attract soulmates in 2024.